Right, karibu sana. This is Morning Cafe. I'm usually Stanley Nyaringita. It's a Wednesday at around 8 a.m. and we give you tips on matters relationships. And this particular morning we discuss something that, itaguza wengi sana. You probably separated, divorced, or you're just dating for a couple of years or months and you broke up. Alafu, it has been probably 6 months or a year and he or she is saying, hey, si turudiane. So what are the dynamics around all this? And this is not a new concept in the country. You've probably experienced it in the whole dating scene, and you really understand it. And we're asking you this morning, under what circumstances will you get back with your ex-partner? Under what circumstances will you get back with your ex-partner? Talk to us on our socials at TV47KE, that is on Facebook. We've posted that question there, by the way. You can head there and talk to us. I'll be sampling quite a few. Already Dennis Ocheng Nasama, we're all human. And since we never made it to marriage, doesn't mean I should not help. For example, if there's an accident which normally occurs, why not help? Humanity has no limitations. Curious which kind of an accident. But then to help us understand this conversation, they're not new to this panel. Nasim Katha, psychologist, as well as Dr. Julius Kimani. Karibuni sana.
Asante.
I love the whole flare of colors you both of you playing around here with all the yellow as well as an orange. So as both of you introduce yourself, as I love to do every single Wednesday, I pop a proverb. And today, sijui kama unajua Chaga, where Chaga is.
In Tanzania?
Yeah, good.
Exactly.
Chaga is in Tanzania.
Yes.
So plucked this proverb from Tanzania. When a lion gets old, even flies attack him. When a lion gets old, even flies attack him. That's our proverb for today. Katha, you're really trying to wonder what does this mean? And in relation to our conversation today, when a lion gets old, even flies attack him. What do you think it means?
With old age comes disrespect. I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I have no clue how to think around it.
I'm thinking, it's a lion gets older means it becomes weak. And I think also in relationship, the more you take it for granted, the longer you are together and you take it for granted, then it becomes weaker. And any small thing can flare up and cause the relationship to go down. That's the way I think it.
Shouldn't it be the opposite though? I mean, when you're in a relationship for quite a long time with someone, doesn't the relationship get stronger or is it the opposite, Katha?
It will get stronger with time, only if you're putting in the work. But if you're neglecting it, then like Daktari said, it will get weak. So it depends on what you're putting into the relationship. Are you working towards making it work? Again, remember at times when you're in a relationship for too long, there's that sense of comfort. In essence, yeah, I've already gotten them, you're quoting party measures, so you just relax, you don't work on it. If when you're starting, you're going on dates, nowadays you rarely go on dates, you don't remember, the calendar days and everything. So if you put in the work, it becomes strong. If you don't, then it gets weak.
And Dr. because so a number of people would ask, why do you have to date for quite a long time so that you just end up splitting? Because you'd find normally they've been together for around 2 years and then now they're splitting. In retrospect, let's say people have just dated for a couple of months. Why is that really the case?
No, the way I would put it is, you can date for long, but are you dating intentionally? Because there are people who just date, they meet for coffee dates, they eat together, but they're not getting into the deep issues of who they are. And so they don't open up. And most of the times, as I said, in dating, everybody wants to show their best side. So they don't show the reality of who they are. But now when they get into marriage, you come to the reality of when you know the person, this is the way they are, this is the way they behave, and because they cannot act throughout, then eventually you get to see their weaker side.
Right.
So that's why you find some people can date for so long, but because they were stepping carefully into the times of dating, they were being on their best. When they get into the relationship, because they're tired of acting, they trip. And suddenly the other person gets so disappointed because they're like, I thought you are a good person. I thought you were nice. How could you do? In fact, most of the people who break up, they're like, how could you do this to me?
Yeah.
Because they were like, when they were dating, things were very okay. They looked fine. They stepped fine. They spoke fine. They dressed fine.
Things.
They were always at the right time coming for the meetings. But then in marriage, somebody takes it for granted, and then you realize things have actually changed. So I think what is important is dating intentionally and not taking the other person for granted. Date to learn the other person. Ask questions that are relevant in that relationship.
Right.
Yes.
And now that we've understood the dynamics of how a relationship should really be like and all that, and just even open this conversation really. Back at home, remember, write this number down, by the way, if you're watching us, 0793 267 279. That's our WhatsApp number where you can text us on WhatsApp and tell us what are your thoughts about getting back together after a divorce, after separation for quite a number of months or even years. 0795, now write this one down also, 0795 045 864. Then you can call us live and probably ask a couple of questions that you have, or send us your opinions and just tell us your opinions. When you're calling us live, tell us your name, where you're calling us from, be as audible as possible, and just have your TV mute or off so that tupatane vizuri kabisa. Now that we've really opened up now this conversation, Kadha, is it advisable to get back together? Doesn't really matter the dynamics. It was probably just dating, maybe dating for a year, and then the separation beat was for a couple of months, 6 months, or it was a whole marriage of 10 years, and then Otoka separate for like 3 years. And the reason I'm asking this is because even Ali is saying it's not a new concept. A televangelist, Ben Hinn, back in 2013, remarried the wife after a separation of about 3 years. So is it advisable in where you're sitting from?
It depends with where you're getting back together. Also depends with where you broke up in the first place. We need to understand our different types of attachment. This on and off, on again, off again, can be as a result of fearful avoidant attachment, whereby I've got into a relationship and things are starting to get a little bit serious and now I'm scared. So I try to start causing issues, sabotage the relationship and everything, and then we break up. And then when we break up, there's this concept I'll have in my mind of I don't need a man, I'm okay alone and everything, until I start getting lonely. And then I start thinking of who was the last person that I was with that made me feel comfortable, that accepted me for who I am and everything. And then I go back to the relationship. And then the cycle continues because, again, I haven't dealt with the real reason as to why I decided to break up with this person. So the cycle will keep on continuing on and off again, on and off again. So again, figure out why exactly did you break up in the first place. Are the issues as to where you broke up resolved, or are they still there? Are you breaking up so that the other person realizes there's no other person like you, yani you're the best thing he'll ever have or whatnot? If that's the reason, then you need to understand people don't just change because of you. People change because they want to change. So again, if you're breaking up, are the issues resolved? Have you worked on yourself, on whatever reasons you wanted to break up with? Has the other person worked on themselves and everything before you come back together? You can break up and get back together and it becomes the best relationship you guys have ever had because you've now understood the risks that were there. You've now understood how much the other person means to you, and you've all put in the work towards making the relationship work. But then again, you can get back together and it becomes the worst relationship ever, the most toxic relationship you've ever been in. Why? Because both of you didn't work on your own issues before coming back together.
Well, we'll get back to the whole bit of chances of it surviving. But I'm curious because, Daktari, my theory is if we've broken up, doesn't matter if probably, let's say we're dating for quite a while, and we've broken up, we've decided, well, this is it. I am immediately deleting your contacts and your existence in, probably the close friends and all that. Does that work?
No, you see, what happens, you realize the reason why people do that, they are reacting. It's like you got burnt in a fire, and so the first thing you want to do is remove everything that can burn you. And so most people react. That's a sign that the person is hurting, and they are trying to get away from the person who hurt them as fast as they could. But we have, I will still look at it this way. It's possible to get back in a relationship. I like using the story of Abraham. You know, you can say they were separated with Sarah for a while because Sarah was liked by a king. And I think for you to be taken, you know, sometimes we don't look at it in a different way. We assume that Sarah was just taken. But she reached a place where she was like, okay, I agree to it because I don't want my hubby to die. But there were issues. I'm very sure coming back, Abraham must have had questions. Did Sarah sleep with this guy? Because 1 year with Pharaoh, and then again it comes up again with Abimelech. You know, these are 2 times Sarah has been taken away from Abraham. Yeah. But so there are solid reasons that can make people to break up. But at the same time, just like you break your leg and it can come back and be well, depending on how broken it is, then it is possible for a relationship to come back and be strong. But the question should be, why did you break up? If you have not solved the issues, and not just on the periphery. You know, there are people who get back because that person, as you were saying, that person makes me feel good. Or the intimacy was great. So the person is just thinking of what they used to do, not what the other person was. So if you're getting back just because you need the person, then it may not be okay. If you're getting back and you have not solved the reason why you broke apart, then it may not work out. If you are getting back and you have not forgiven each other, because forgiveness is key in any relationship, you have not forgiven each other, and forgiveness is not where you keep on reminding the other person, you know, you did this. Forgiveness means you treat that person as if they did not do that thing. You have paid, it's like you've paid the price.
So you're doing this now after getting back together now?
If you have gotten that, I'm saying you need to make that decision.
Okay.
Are you ready to forgive this person for what they did? And if you're not ready, if you will keep on raising up those issues, you know, there are people who keep on putting the issues like in a box. Then badaye, when things get weird, they pull out a fast one on you. They tell you, you remember. So you are always toned down or you're made guilty by what you did. So if you will do that in that relationship, keep on pulling things to remind the other person what they did, then I think you should actually probably stay away for a while before you come back together.
Okay. So Nkatha, looking at my theory of cutting the closest ties, deleting phone numbers, our closest of friends, and even family members, just cutting the close ties that both of us had. Does that theory work? And because if in a relationship, at the end of the day, you wouldn't really, as much as you try to delete the number, it would be a small world between, let's say, the two of us. So chances are, some years later, or some months later, one of us might probably reach out. So bado nakumbuka handle yako ya kama ni IG or something. I'll just, text you or DM you there. I'll probably even have a whole new profile. The reason is, point is you still get, look for ways to cut those and bridge those ties. How should that work?
First things first, I'll go back now to, again, attachment theory and attachment styles. I mentioned fearful avoidance, so you cutting off all ties and everything that is avoidance. And like he said, it's a reaction to whatever it is that has happened. We all have different ways we respond to trauma. Most people don't take emotional trauma as trauma per se, but it is trauma. So every time you keep on cutting off people and everything in your circle, how many people have you cut off? If you're cutting off all the friends that reminded you of her and everything, you end up cutting off a lot of people, but eventually you might bump into them and everything, and the wound still, pops to surface and everything. So what would work in such a situation is grieving the relationship. When you talk about grief, we don't only talk about grief when someone has died, we also talk about what you've lost in terms of relationship, a job and everything. So this is whereby now unajitaka mkutano tena. unajiuliza, what did this relationship mean to me? What have I lost out of this relationship? What do I miss about the person? What would I wish, I would have done different, and everything, so on and so forth. So when you're doing this way, you're dealing with it in a healthy manner. So this way, moving forward, these were my weaknesses. This is what I did wrong. This is what I take accountability of. This is what they did wrong, and everything. So moving forward, I want something different, and so on and so forth. So every time you meet them, it won't be triggering that thing of, I'm going to change njia, you get, because you've dealt with it in a healthy manner. But just, blocking them and everything is like, cleaning up, and then you're throwing everything under the carpet and everything. Eventually it will come to service. So it's not a healthy thing. You might think it's working for you at that particular moment, but in the long run, it's not. Because again, you're you're putting those things.
Compartmentalizing
yes,
it.
that word, I never know how to say it. So yes, you're doing that. So every time you keep on doing that, eventually it will come to service. And then the next relationship you get into, you'll start bleeding into that relationship. Well, this person is not the one that hurt you in the first place. So you start doing the whole high work, bro.
Okay. But then, so now let's talk about the fact that this close ties has work. So one of us reached out to the other. So in this kind of scenario from both of you, so what happens in this case? You've seen the text, or probably this person called you. You still have the number. What you call it, kuonyesha nani calling. How do you start up this conversation into actually getting back together? Where does it start? Because the both of you already know each other. You're dating for months or years, or you're probably even in marriage, and you know quite a lot about each other. So the conversation that you're having at this moment would be very different from, let's say, when sasa tunaanza tu kukatiana hapo. That's hapo hata the kind of things you say are totally different. But now this conversation is different because you already know each other. So it's a conversation that one of you wants to get back together to. How does that conversation start?
I like what you said, one of you wants to get back together. So meaning the other person is kidogo 50-50.
No, at this point, they don't know the other person's intention. They don't know if he or she wants to get back together. So now the person who is bringing up this idea, how do they start up this conversation?
Straight up, like, I want you back. I feel like we beat around the bush so much. We come say, hi, I was just checking up on you. Next thing we know, it's almost a month. We're still there, just checking up on you. And just tell the person what you want. I've realized XYZ, and I think I'd want us to try it again. And then the other person will know this is what this person wants. So it's not just a matter of saying, hi, good morning, umekula, whatnot. You've wasted so much time as beating around the bush. Just go straight to the point. I've realized XYZ. And also when you're doing this, also take accountability. Because another thing that we always do wrong is when we're trying to get back to the other person, we always throw, Julie, fanya hivi na hivi na hivi, you siku-like and everything. But then again, what did you do towards the relationship ending and everything? What did you do on your end instead of just throwing stones and everything? Because when you come that way, then this other person realizes ameenda kakaa chini akarealize pia alikuwa na role ya could play, even no matter how small it is and everything. So once you start taking accountability instead of throwing blame and everything, it becomes easier. And then also when you're pointing out what they did wrong, I feel like the other thing we do wrong is now the communication aspect of it. When it comes to communication, there's something we call I statements. So instead of coming to you and telling you, every time kazi yako tu ni kuni neglect, unakuwaga tu unaenda out na mabeshte zako, unifikirie and everything. Of course, as a human being, you'll want to defend yourself. You go into defense mode because now I'm accusing you of something. But if I come to you and tell you, I feel neglected every time you do XYZ, I feel this and that every time you do this and that, and that's why it led to this and that. Okay. So this way you won't have that defense mode and what are you defending? I'm telling you how I'm feeling, right? So you will listen to me and you'll understand, and in your end utapata hizo conversations that I'm sorry you felt that way, I didn't mean it that way, and this and that. So I feel like most of the time we really need to be straightforward with what we want instead of beating around the bush, and also understand the communication skills in regards to how to put things out there. I can tell you the meanest thing in a very nice way, and it will hit you months later, and that was shade. You get, it won't hurt you at that particular, I don't know if that makes, so you just learn how to communicate with people. The other thing is, I feel like most of us don't understand the skills to a healthy relationship. Before you even get to all that, because I feel like we get into these issues when it's already too late. And then we start going for couples therapy when it's already too late. So before you even think of getting to a relationship, think about the skills. One of them is insight. How well do you understand yourself? Do you know yourself, self-awareness, and everything? And then mutuality. By mutuality, I mean you need to understand that you are in a relationship with another human being that also has feelings of their own. So as much as your own feelings are valid, so is your partner's feelings. So how now do you come and meet together? I'll give an example. Sorry if I'm going off topic, but I'll give an example. Maybe I'm supposed to get a job that is supposed to take me outside Nairobi, knowing very well one of your love language is time, spending time with your partner and everything. And now I'm supposed to go outside Nairobi, so I need to put into consideration your feelings in regards to me taking this job. I know a job is something I need, but at the same time, I need to also factor in the fact that this might affect the relationship. So I can come to you and tell you, this is a job that I need. So would you be comfortable if I set aside time for us to be meeting, either every weekend or something like that? So I've put your feelings into consideration as much as my own feelings mattered in regards to me getting that job. And then now the other thing is emotional regulation. Do you know how to regulate your emotions when things don't go your way, instead of always boiling up? I'll give an example. I'm a Meru. We all know Merus have hot tempers and everything. So with me knowing that, and I know I have hot temper and everything, before I react to something, I must first of all breathe and feel, do I really want to say this? So personally, I have this WhatsApp group that it's just me. If I feel like I want to rant out and say mean things and everything, I first of all text it to my group, WhatsApp group. And then when I'm calm and collected, I go through the text, I read it through and be like, do I still want to send this text? And then I'll find myself editing. I'm like, okay, no, if I say this, he'll take it the wrong way, so let me just leave that out and everything. So emotional regulation is very important when it comes to relationship. So I feel like if you have those 3 skills and you master those 3 skills, then the relationship will work. And if you realize these 3 skills are just me and me, myself alone, working on them myself without necessarily the other person. Right. So if you can learn to deal with that before you decide, I really want to get into a relationship, then you realize whatever issues come through the relationship and everything, you'll be able to resolve them.
So that means as a person, even before you start texting this person, you probably changed your ways, all that. So Daktari, can you, because I mean, she's saying, change is really relative. You really have to change for yourself and not decide to be changing it because of your partner. So having all this in mind, can all this change the relationship on how the first, let's say, first half venye ilikuwa, mkaenda break, now merudi second half sasa. Sasa, I mean, ulikuja straight up ukasema turudiane. And the other party was like, well, okay, uko sure may change? Because, I mean, that would really be the question. Yeah, mimi may change. Who may change? Yes, mimi may change. Will that now make this relationship probably better? Second half itakuwa fiti?
No, it depends again. Second half can be very good. Or there are people who have gotten into second half and they got even more injured and they were actually taken out on a stretcher or even dead. So you have change is not enough. You know the way the aspect of saying you may change. What have you changed? You need to highlight from your partner. Maybe your partner used to say left you because you are cheating. Now somebody says I've changed. Squeezy, I'm not cheating. Now that is just saying I've changed is not enough. And that is where I say you have to have a plan. You don't dive into the relationship. You work out the relationship. You have to start developing the trust again, because trust, definitely, when you see 2 people who are broken up, one thing that has happened is that trust has been broken. Now, how do you work again having this trust come back to where it was? It may never come back to where it was, but at least it can be worked towards that. And that is where now you need to sit down and have a strategy on how you're going to rebuild trust And the way you're going to rebuild trust, it has to come from the other person. Because probably you used to disappear on Friday, then show up on a Monday morning and give a story like our car broke down. Now, unless now you agree that, let's say Friday comes, I want to see you every Friday at home, because probably that's where you used to go and cheat. Then you agree this is the way we are going to work out on the issue of trust. What behavior change are you going to put in place to see that you have really changed? Number two, there has to be openness in communication. And I think he has put it in the right way. There is so much, if you're coming to win, because any relationship you come in to win, most likely you lose. In something we call conflict resolution, there is I win, you lose, I win, you win, or nobody wins. Now, if nobody wins, that relationship cannot work. If one person keeps on winning, that relationship may not work for long. But when you put yourself into a win-win situation, that means we are working on something that benefits both of us, we feel comfortable with, then that may take us into a better path. So I would say the communication has to be so clear. We find in most cases of separation, somebody, especially ladies, they have so many things that they want to say, and they are saying them, they are having a serious conversation in their mind, but they never say it to their partner. So by the time maybe this thing breaks up, she hadn't even said anything. And that is where now we say you have to create a bridge on how to say these things. And that's what we call communication. So have your communication improved? You find most of the times when the reason why people don't find it coming back easy is because they are still not able to communicate what separated them. And if they cannot be able to communicate that, then it will be very hard. So I will say be intentional on recreating trust. That means there are things that you must do or not do in a persistent way. Because trust is created by doing something persistently or not doing something wrong persistently. Now, the second thing, you have to know how to communicate your issues in a more clear way. And that is where I say, this is the best opportunity. If you got that call maybe from a dude, they are calling and they say, I want us to get back together. And you used to try to tell him to go for counseling and would say no. Then this would be the best time to tell them the condition for coming back to this relationship. Let us both go to counseling, tupate usaidizi, ndio tukiingia tuwe na tools za kujenga hii relationship.
And you've touched on something that I wanted also Gather to expound on, and just to continue the whole hypothetical of this is like a football match. So we've gone with the first half. First half was hypothetically for football match would be 45 minutes. But now depending on how long the first half was, probably months or even years, you learned a couple of lessons. And then Kamaliza, you took a break for a period of time, months or even years. There are lessons that are also going to be learned at that time. So now coming into second half, if both mutually, both agree. So, I mean, he's already, picked up on the kind of conditions that are set. So how does that work, Katha? Let's say, do you have to again, strictly set, some of these conditions, and how are they even followed?
So before you even get back together, because there's this thing of tumeachana Monday, tumerudiana Friday. I feel like when you break up, take some time, at least 6 months, to just ujite wako kamkutano, ujite and you may attend, figure out like if you really want to get back with this person, what do you really want to work on individually as an there's this notion that we always say they complete me 50-50 and everything, but that's a lie. Relationship can never be 50-50. Relationship is 100-100. I come 100%, you come 100%, we complement each other. Because if you take that notion of 50-50, the minute my 50% leaves, then I'll feel incomplete. I'll feel there's something missing out of me and everything. And high chances are we're always getting into a relationship. I normally call it a hole that needs to be filled. So jiteka mkutano julize, that emptiness that I feel inside, what needs to fill it? And can I fill that emptiness myself before I need someone else to fill it for me? Because now if I know this is what makes me feel empty, this is what makes me feel lonely, and I'm able to reassure it and I'm able to feel it myself and everything, when they come, it becomes easier for us to now complement each other. So before you even talk about getting back together and everything, I'll go back to the whole point of this is a you thing. You need to figure out by yourself first before you decide to get back with the other person. So this, if it's timelines we're looking at, give yourself time to really dissect the relationship, because again you'll realize there are patterns to it. The same issues you had with this ex is the same issues you had with 3 other exes. You get
a quick one before we get into now the conditions. In this timeline that you're giving us, let's say 6 months, should I be in very close or actually just contact with the other person?
I would say no. Just, it's like going on hibernation or something. Just take a break from them completely and just be all about you. Because again, feelings si kama switch, uta switch on and off and everything. And the more they're still in the picture and everything, you'll get clouded, you know? So if possible, just let them know, like, sipati silent treatment kubaya and everything. I just need this time to figure things out on my own.
Inamaanisha ile theory yangu inaweza work.
Inaweza, but unaona theory yako ni unamblock completely.
Well, for a couple of months. So.
Unamblock na unablock hadi mabeshte wake. So you like you've cut off.
Si ndio proper
contact.
hibernation vizuri.
No, but me I'm saying they're still there, but there's not that everyday conversation and everything. Fine, we can have this wellness. I normally call them wellness check-ins and everything, but it doesn't go beyond that. So this is also whereby you need to understand boundaries and set boundaries to this thing. You need to understand that we're not dating. So if you go out there, gari yako imekwama and everything, let me not be the first person anipigia nikuje nikuchangie tire, and because I'm not that person in your life. And you get like, we will communicate, yes, because I feel like once you decide to cut someone off completely, like he said, it comes from a place of hurt and pain. And you cannot process or you cannot move forward if you're still hurting and if you're still in pain. And that's why the first thing that you need to do is go through the grief processes, you know, grieve the whole relationship. And the minute you grieve, you'll realize, as much as I've lost this, and it's something I would want to circle back on, it hurts in this way, it feels this way, and I wouldn't want to feel this again. So there's that peace that comes with it. There's that peace that comes with understanding what made the relationship not work. But if I say I'm cutting you off completely and everything, then that brings in a very different conversation in regards to separating and time apart. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that you understand that. Like there's two, it seems similar, but they're two very different things in terms of me cutting you off completely, cutting your clan off, your friends off and everything, and me telling you I need space. I just need time to focus on me. And this, you get into that space of focusing on you at a clear state.
All right.
Sorry.
Before you actually get into conditions, I mean, you've raised a very interesting bit that the fact that you just say, I just want space. For this, daktari would mean for someone, they'd interpret as, I'm giving you space, but then we have close contact. And the kind of question that they would ask is, I'm giving you space, yes, but so are we still dating? Ni venye tu bado sasa ile pace yenye, you know, we used to do things, it's not there yet. So, but we're still dating. Another would ask, so are we broken up? How do you actually, what does that even mean?
You know, I think it's very important to make it clear that if you're not sure of where you're headed or why you've separated and you have any intention of coming back, if you're not sure, make it very clear to that person that I'm not sure on where I am. I don't even know. You know, sometimes by the time people are separating, they are lost. And so that you're saying it's so important first to find you. Because if you don't find you, then you can't even find the other person. It's like you're two people, you're the blind leading the blind. So first find you. And that's where the communication is very important. If we are separating, just say there is a very important thing of give me time. And then give it a timeline. For example, we can say, I need a month. I need 2 months. Those 2 months, then you can be able to get back together and say, I still probably need more time. And I think nobody should be coerced. Nobody should be coerced into getting back together. And you find sometimes a woman could be threatening or the man could be threatening. If you don't get back together in 6 months, hiki tutumwachana kabisa. Now you're using threats because you want the person back, but you're not ready to work on the things that we're supposed to work to. So give it a timeline.
Is the other person allowed to see anyone else?
I think if you are working on a relationship, that there's a possibility of you coming back, then it's very important that both of you don't see anybody. If you have intentions, that's why we are saying we've separated. Because let me tell you something. If you come back after you have started seeing other people, now that becomes a huge baggage in that relationship. Because now you'll come back and you're solving issues. So ulikuwa na ule msee.
But that's unfair. I mean, she comes and tells me I need space. I mean, okay, fine. And then, because I've given you space in Kada, I found someone else. For the 1 month, because you told me, give me about 2 months. I found someone else in the second month. And then you come and went, okay, fine, our 2 months Meisha, can we now get back together? I'm already with someone else.
You're already with someone else in 2 months.
Yes.
Where was this other person? Meaning the other person was already in our relationship. No. This means if you're able to get someone else that first, it means this someone else was already in our relationship when we were still there. It's someone that you're still vibing. It might also maybe just be my friend. So it means the whole issue of us breaking up was valid in the first place, because now if you're able to move on that first, then clearly go be with that person. Anyway, I'm making it personal. But what I'm trying to say is, if you're deciding on getting back together, like you said, take that time to find you first. You can't find you if you're still engaged in entanglements out there. And like you said, if you come back, especially for me, I hold grudges a lot. If you come back, I'll start asking a lot of questions like, okay, so...
You're gonna list mzima.
Hey,
why?
You get, so it won't help the relationship. But if you're breaking up to get back together, take time. There's nothing. I normally feel like it's even healthy for you to just take time off from the whole dating thing and everything,
yes,
and just find yourself. It's like a detox, an emotional detox.
Oh, yes.
You actually need it. So if you've gotten back together with someone else, then just stick with that other person, and issues come, resolve with the other person. You get like the other person pay a move on, because now this is where toxic relationships come in, whereby we've broken up, you've gotten into a new relationship, attitudes may form different and everything, so it wouldn't work.
Oh yes, the streets are very peaceful, and because we've been talking for 5 minutes plus, I'd also love to hear what your sentiments are. If you're watching us at home, pale kwa job, talk to us. Under what circumstances will you get back to your ex-partner, or actually you've been in that whole scenario? What's your experience really? 0795 045 864, and our phone numbers are open. You can talk to us. If you have a couple of questions, the counselor as well as the psychologist, pop them in, and they'll be answering them to you. Or in case you just have a story to tell us, we pakue vizuri and you tell us, and all you need to do is just tell us your name, where you're calling us from, and be as audible as possible. Zima TV and just have it mute, ndio the conversation flow vizuri. Oh yes, phone numbers are open, talk to us. You can also text us 0793 267 279. I believe you have a couple of texts. I'll be 22047. I'll be skimming through them. Also on Facebook, taking a look at Dennis Uching. Kuna moja hapa ilinibamba sana. Pinches Mwash. Anasema, exes are all best, because out of that relationship, we learned lessons. You can take a look at them and just get your sentiments. There's a whole mixed reactions on the same, the question. Nyota Furniture anasema, maybe in a dream. Let me see, Michael Osore. Our children might bring us back together, and remember, what goes around always comes around. Ngeno Ronald, under no circumstances. Shinyabi Hillary, under no circumstance. MK Brian, kuna ile circumstance inaitwa bestie. Okay. Sami Ward Mugabe, labda nikienda Sayuni. Glory Favor, under no circumstance. That can't happen. Let those circumstances go to hell. Watu wanaandika na machungu. Denshan, that is Denshan Konyosh. Let me take a look at Skido Aluocho says, if she agrees to compensate me for the cheat she did. Let me see. No circumstance can lead to the union of the duo. Sijaelewa hapo Sultan Crazy Nanga. Let me see. Muchere Francis, under the circumstances that a cow lays an egg and a chicken produces milk. Basically saying no circumstance in that. Let me see a contradicting one here. Clemento Mwanyika here iwezekani. Brian Otieno says it depends, but doesn't really go into all that. Explaining why. Let me see. Okay, where there's mutual agreement between the two of you to do a friendly. Okay. Chimsindi Ishmael says his money, then I will also cheat on him with another person. Yes. Hiyo ni kama alifanywa ile kitu. Triza Shaz says maybe when I want to have another kid. That's a very interesting bit, by the way, Nkadha. Because I mean, you're with this person, and then there was this whole ideas of, let's have 2 children, let's have, this number of children, and then, you broke up. So do you pick up the kind of plans that were there, again, in our hypothetical, during the first half? Because you had quite a number of goals, both of you. We have a home, we have, this kind of business, we have this number of children, and then you break up. So when you want to reunite, do you also pick up these goals that you had in the first half?
Mm-hmm. That is very interesting because, again, are you getting another baby just to get a baby and live separate? I don't know if you've heard of this term, Project Daddy, whereby it's just, I just want a kid with you and nothing more. We get a kid, you'll be in the kid's life, but you live separate. Niko na mtu huku nje, mimi nataka tu mtoi. So if that's the case,
that's an interesting one there.
Yes, so if it's on a Project Daddy basis, then the other person needs to know this, that I'm not coming back for a serious relationship. I just want a kid with you because we have another kid. And maybe I just want my kids to have the same dad, the same mom. And if the other person agrees, I mean, both of you are grown-ups. The other person agrees, well and good. But again, before the other person agrees, you also need to look at, with this kid that we already have, how has the co-parenting been? Mm-hmm. Has it been a smooth co-parenting? Has it been a toxic one? Is this something that I want for myself and whatnot? If not, then cut it off. So I feel like there's a lot of things that needs to be put into consideration in terms of getting back together because you want another kid. Is it to work on the relationship and become a family again? Is it everyone lives their own life and our kids have the same parents? And if that's the case, then what are the terms? Because again, understanding the terms, then you get to know how to behave or how to deal with the situation, of which it might work, it may not work.
Dr. Tracy Wambui says if trust wasn't broken, and still at the same question, according to her, if maybe trust wasn't broken, it was just a whole mutual bit. Taking a look at it on actually both sides, if trust was broken as well as when trust wasn't broken, do you pick up from where you left? Or do you start to have a whole new, have the second half? You got a ball, saa zingine inabidi utoe Varane hapa, utoe nani hapa, you change how things were so that a second half looks quite different. Probably different players and all that. So do you pick up from where you left from the first half?
I believe in every relationship, there are good things and there are bad things. And we need to treasure the good things that happened. Now, those ones, we can take them to the second half. But we can say, that's why you find sometimes the second half, the coach and the team goes to the other side, they say, we can't play it this way. Let's have a serious discussion on how to change the whole game. And that's where now you sit on the table and you discuss on how are you going to continue on this journey. And you have to realize there's no relationship that breaks without both of you having played a part. Even if the other person played 99%, you may have played 1%. And so taking responsibility is the key. Then looking at what will make this thing work. You know, I usually say we are so good in making organizations work. We sit on the table, we thrash things out. We say we are not going to do this, but we'll do this and make this thing successful in the organization. And I believe in a relationship, if you can be able to sit with that mentality, sit on the table and say what did not work in the first relationship. Maybe there was a lot of shouting. There was a lot of anger. How do we deal with the anger issues? How do we deal with the shouting issues? Then put on the table. If something is too hot, then you can leave it for another time, because there are times when you begin to have a conversation and you find it is taking a different turn. So you can say, pause on this, let us revisit. And I will say, don't jump in, because probably you've been married for 2 years. And your family, like what you are saying, you begin to delete numbers, your mother knows, your mother-in-law knows, your friends knows that you are parted ways. And then in December, you both have come back. You are coming wearing, you have couple goals, you're wearing the same kitenge, the man, and you have not even informed your family. They also need to be on the same page. So if you're coming back together, I think also you need to involve your family. Because if they knew her as a bad lady, then you need to introduce her as the good lady and why she's now a good lady. There are things that you have gone through. Probably you have seen a counselor. And that counselor is even has even talked to the parents, because otherwise they may be received in a negative way, and then the whole thing flares up again. So bring along. Friends may not be the main ones, but at least family. Let them know on what you're working on, especially if you had stayed together, so that they don't influence you again into dropping the relationship. So it is important to both of you agree on the way forward, and what to drop off, and also on who to involve on this journey of reconciliation. Because the people who help you to reconcile will be the same people who now you can run to for if you need something, if you need assistance in strengthening that relationship that you have already come back to. Yes. All right.
So we have about 5 minutes or less to wrap it up. And just to really summarize what we've been discussing, the whole dynamics of getting back together. It doesn't matter if it was just a breakup of a couple of months, it was a whole marriage built. And this really means, apart from both of you, the other people involved, family as well as friends. But then what are the chances, even as you also give us final thoughts and advice, what are the chances of this bit surviving the second half? Itabidi tena tukue na extra time. Even second half doesn't even, after second half there's another break, and then now there's a whole extra time. What are the chances of this surviving, and what are the dynamics of ensuring that it actually survives?
What I'll say is, I'll give an example. If you break a glass and you try to patch it back together, the glass will never look the same. It might not even hold water, So what I'm trying to say is, do not go back with the whole concept of starting off where we left off. Tunaanzia kwenye tuliachia. It's all about rebuilding from scratch. Rebuilding from scratch means if it's trust that was broken, you need to rebuild that trust. You need to work again, like start over again on a clean slate and everything, whereby I don't have armors that every time something happens, I'm starting to throw them at you. Unakumbuka 2020 ulifanya hivi na hivi. No, we are starting afresh if that's what we want, on a clean slate. But then again, if that's not the case, then eventually your glass yenye ilikuwa imevunjika itavunjika tena, and the more cracks it gets, the uglier it gets, the more toxic it gets. So what I'd say is, this whole concept of starting off where we left off, we should stop. So if it's courting, start all over again. Go on dates, do everything afresh. Reintroduce each other to, your new names to each other and everything. Go the extra mile of starting all over again.
So technically, hakuna second half.
Hakuna story.
First half ilisha, game ilisha.
Your game imeisha, tumesahau your game, so tuko different teams, because again, remember, when we took this break, I went, worked on myself, you went, worked on yourself. So even you coming back to this relationship, you're not the same person that I'm assuming you're not the same person that you were a few months ago. And so am I, I'm not the same person that I was a few months ago. So if we're starting all over, we're starting all over again. Hakuna historia, unakumbuka sijui nini? No, we are starting on a clean slate. And I feel like once we give ourselves that chance to start on a clean slate and reintroducing ourselves to our partners and everything, it becomes easier for you to move forward. The future becomes different. Even the path that you're taking in regards to where the relationship is heading and everything is a very different path as the one you were taking back then.
Dr. your final thoughts, really?
I will say this: if you are separated, weigh carefully on the reasons of why you're going back, because there are people who went back because of money, and they died in the money and with the money, because you just went back because you wanted the money. There are gentlemen sometimes, especially if the men, they will want just to go back because of the intimacy. It used to be great. You look at that chick and you're like, the intimacy used to be great. Don't just go back for that. Weigh carefully. And I finally say, involve God in the going back, because check deeply into your heart. If you have no peace about going back, don't force yourself. And the final one is, don't allow the community to push you back into a relationship simply because you need a status. Let it be that you're getting there because you find there could be a way forward and it will be a great relationship. But if you're finding no peace, please stay away from it. Because I have said, there are people who have gone back and they have come out worse than before, wounded, and some of them never came out. They actually died. So be careful on the reasons why you want to be back. Let them be genuine. And there are people who are also going back simply because they want to revenge. So you have to be careful, because the person could be coming back and they're saying, this time I want to hit her really well. So check the peace in your heart and then make the right decision.
It's what Michael was saying. Remember, what goes around comes around. Asanteni sana for having this conversation, giving us the whole wise nuggets and educating me as well. Could change some kind of theories that I had. Nasim Kadha, psychologist, as well as Dr. Julius Kimani, a counselor. Asanteni sana. And also asante sana for sticking around. This has been Relationship Wednesday. The conversation definitely